Welcome to The Growth Show with Matt Lindsay, where we discuss growth strategies both for business and a personal perspective, discussing all kinds of businesses, growth strategies, technology, investment strategy, and much more. We are meeting with entrepreneurs, investors, app developers, and property developers. Our vision is to help 10,000 business owners grow their businesses. Introducing our host, Matt Lindsay. Matt is a former banker and corporate financier. He now spends his time building his own companies organically and through acquisition, as well as raising capital for other businesses. Matt works with a wide variety of entrepreneurs and investors.
Hi, and welcome to The Growth Show. Today's guest is Charlotte Edwards, who goes by the handle of Accidental Female Developer. So welcome, Charlotte. How are you today?
Oh, good. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm really happy to be talking to you today.
Cool. Well, thanks for joining us. So I've followed your Instagram for, I don't know, six to 12 months, I think. And during that time, I've been quite impressed with your journey of building out lots of properties. And so, yeah, I reached out to you. We've never really spoken before this. And yeah, I was just interested to see that kind of journey. And I think the Growth Show, by way of context and background, for me has always been about giving people inspiration to go and achieve the things that they want to go and do. And for me, I kind of like that narrative of, accidental female developer. There's not that many women in property, and yeah, I was really impressed with not only the great developments that you seem to be undertaking, but also how you've kind of positioned yourself in that. So yeah, I thought that kind of narrative and from a marketing perspective, how you've positioned yourself was quite interesting. So I wanted to talk to you a bit about that today. But before we get into all that, first things first. So what was your background? How did you grew up in the Midlands? Is that right?
Yeah, I grew up in Shropshire, pretty sleepy town. Never really moved away for very long, so I've kind of always lived around here.
Sure.
Probably like not really a lot of job prospects around. I ended up going to uni, I did a business degree.
Okay.
And then just started working in marketing and PR, various sort of in-house roles, and for a few sort of big corporates as well. And that's what I did for 15 years until I got into property.
Okay, and that was by accident, or?
It was, yes.
Okay.
After my handle, yes, it was by accident. Do you want me to dive straight into it?
Please, yeah. We won't hold the suspense for too much longer.
Okay, well, it was my dad and my brother both ran a property development business. They did it together.
Okay.
And they did that my dad had been doing it for 30 years.
Okay.
My brother recently joined him. And then at the age of 28, found out he'd got cancer.
Oh no.
My brother, and passed away a few months later.
Right.
So it was very sudden, bit of a shock. And then within a couple of months after that, my dad had also passed away with cancer. So
oh my God, that's horrendous.
Yeah, and we were all very close. Like we all lived like next door to each other. We were in and out of each other's house. We were a very close family. So that was very difficult. But I suppose what added to that pressure as well is that they had unfinished business, if you like. They had bought a field with planning permission for 25 houses,
right?
Bank financed, and that was kind of what me and my mum were left with to manage really and to deal with, and hence I accidentally I had to learn how to build houses basically. Had to learn how to build them. This was post-Brexit. This was the end of 2019. So this was post-Brexit,
right.
Pre-COVID.
Right.
We were just about to fall into COVID.
Right. Okay. So, wow. I mean, that must be, from a personal perspective, a really challenging thing to get through from an emotional perspective, but also, that kind of daunting feeling of how do I do this?
Yeah, exactly.
So the next question is quite obvious. How did you do it?
With great difficulty, actually, because I don't know if you remember, but the kind of the construction industry all but shut down over COVID. And although the government advice was for construction to carry on, of course, all the builders merchants shut, so it wasn't so easy to do. I tried to kind of being from the education background, I valued my education. I thought, I'm sure there's a course that I can do in this. I'm sure there's a course that will teach me how to build houses. It'll be fine. I'll find one. I rang up all the local like technical colleges and kind of like building, CITB, that kind of the construction industry bodies. None of them had let me on the course because I hadn't got any experience. I explained my situation. I said, look, I've got to build 25 houses. I don't know how I'm going to do it, and I need some sort of instruction. Sorry, you need 6 months experience. Come back when you've got 6 months experience. So, right, okay. I just taught myself. So I went on site every day in my steel toe cap boots. Well, that was another issue. I couldn't even get a pair of steel toe cap boots in, like, I'm a size 5, just a women's size, I had to like order them off some obscure company on the internet. Like the shops that you could walk in, they don't even do women's site wear. So once I'd managed to get myself kitted out, then I was on site every day, kind of learning and asking a lot of questions. And that's when I turned to social media as well, actually, and podcasts and YouTube and Instagram and learning off what other people were doing, because when lockdown came, obviously you couldn't socialize, you couldn't meet up with people. So I was doing all my learning and communicating online.
Sure. And have you in the past faced kind of resilient, situations where you require such resilience as this in your kind of professional career, or was this the first time that the chips were, really against you and you had to kind of, do everything that you possibly can to get through it?
No, I've just had such like a nice, easy life. Honestly, I've just, I was happy with what I was doing. And actually, I needed a bit of a shake up because I was sort of earning my money and then spending it all on sort of bags and shoes and holidays. So that it wasn't there was no long-term plan there. But I was, I was comfortable and whatever else. I'm a single mum as well, so I've got 2 kids. But, so that's a bit of a challenge, but it's quite common these days. There's a lot of, couples who split and they end up single parents and they still manage to work and whatever else. So that nothing major like that was. So this was the first massive emotional hurdle that I faced, and also business wise, everything just a massive shift in mindset was required.
Absolutely. And so I guess it's one of those things that you don't want to kind of put the past behind, because quite often, people try to create kind of separation between what's happened and what they're going to do in terms of, moving forwards with things. And I guess because of the kind of, it's your family, you don't want to create that separation. So you want to kind of leave that legacy so it's something positive as well, which, I can imagine that's quite a difficult thing to deal with.
It is very difficult because, they were big shoes to fill, literally. So and there's a sense of not wanting to let them down, and it's strange because when I would talk to my dad about, like maybe I'll get into property one day, and you'll need somebody to carry on the business out, after you want to retire and things, and he would just be like, laugh it off, like, it's just not a place, it's just not a place for women on a development site. Like, you just won't get on with it, the people that you're working with, like, he's like, it just won't be for you carry on doing what you're doing. And I went, okay. so I didn't have a shoe in, I didn't have any, and my dad was old school. Like, there were no spreadsheets, and there wasn't even a computer, there wasn't even an email address, that it was it was all in his head and on his mobile phone. And so after he passed, all I had was this mobile phone with like a list of contacts. But luckily, next to each name, it would be like what they did. So it'd be like John, architect, Dave, plumber, Chris, builder. Like, so that's all I had was this mobile phone with this list of names and the trades and who they were listed next to them. Which, thank God, he did that. Otherwise, I wouldn't have had a clue.
So did you left your job at that point, or were you?
I actually tried to do both.
Right.
So naively thought, like, how hard can this be? So I tried to do both, but I think I was gonna have a breakdown. So
Absolutely.
I just couldn't do it, because I'd be doing my marketing role, and I'd be getting calls off the building site like, where's this delivery? What's happened here? What should we do here? And I was like, to my marketing clients, I went, I've got to go. Like, I was always playing one off against the other. I thought, this just isn't going to work. I've got to put everything into one of these things, and it's got to be the development, because the amount of finance that was riding against it, it had to be that.
And just touching on that briefly, I won't go into specifics of numbers, etc. But so basically, you had a substantial loan from a bank. Were they supportive? What was their view of what was going on?
You know what? I was so worried to tell them what was going on. Like, I didn't want to tell them what had happened. But actually, when I did, they were really supportive. And we had weekly phone calls with them, and I was kind of doing like cost analysis and projections and things like that with them, very basic ones, because obviously I didn't really have much of a clue what I was doing, but I just wanted to reassure them that I did. And yeah, it's really good. And actually, since then, we've had so we're 2 years down the line now, but I've had conversations with him still. He's like, hey, do you want finance to do anything else? Do you want, he's like, it's all paid back now, and he's like got full faith in me, so that's really good. So it turned out for the best. But as someone who never got into debt, and even if I went £100 overdrawn in my current account, that would give me anxiety. So to take on something that was minus 7 figures, I had a few sleepless nights, put it that way.
Understandably, yeah, that's a big potentially a big shock to the system. Absolutely. And yeah. So. And in terms of that particular project, then where were you? So was it just a piece of land and no building had started? Oh right, wow, okay.
It was a field. Yeah, it was a farmer's field. That was it.
Right.
So literally from scratch, like, right, what do we do first? And luckily, a few of the team from my dad's days had stuck around. Some didn't. Some were like not sure. I don't know what their reasons were for leaving, but I would imagine they thought that perhaps the business wasn't going to continue, or they didn't have faith in me or the leadership, or I don't know, but I don't know, maybe I would have done the same thing if I was them, to be honest. But yeah, we've made a good go of it and made a success of it, so it's all worked out for the best. Got a really good team now, and that helps a lot.
Okay, and so effectively you had a site that was consented for 25. You were at the point of, did you have to go through the points with the council of getting, if there were any reserve matters overturned and things like that, or was it?
Yeah. But what I've learned to do now, when I first started doing this, I was trying to do everything myself. So I'd be like trying to contact the council myself and do like 1, to save money, 2, to learn, and 3, just because I was feeling a bit of a control freak at the time.
Sure.
Now what I've done is I've got some great planning consultants. So I'm like, hey, can you sort out these reserve matters? Or hey, I think we can. And what we did was we got an extra plot as well, so it's now a site of 26. So right. We've managed it, and just by working with other experts in the industry has actually helped me out a lot. Just being able to leverage other people's kind of experience and knowledge, and it pays back twofold, that investment in other people's expertise, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's good advice. And in terms of how you physically went through that build process, as you mentioned, that was at the time of COVID as well. So there was basically the world stopped for quite a long period of time. Price increases, material shortages. That's basically as bad as you could possibly ever get it in terms of running a project, right? How did that happen and work?
I know. I was thinking, like, my dad would never, if my dad was here, he would never believe like all the hurdles that we've had to jump over to do this, because he's never experienced any of that. Like, he's never. So we had the great plaster shortage of 2020, and then we had the great cement shortage of 2021. We'll be telling our grandchildren about that one. We're just so many shortages, and now you've got the price increases of, like, timber 80% or something. and continually emails. I've had 3 emails this week of I had one on Monday to say blocks are going up 7%, and then I had another email on Wednesday, blocks are actually going to have to go up 10% because the fuel's increased again since our last email. So everything just continues going up, and I don't know, I've not spoke to anyone who's experienced this in the industry before, of these price increases.
No, it feels a bit like a kind of triple shock, really, in some ways, because obviously you've got the material costs, you've got the fuel prices, you've got, obviously the situation with Russia, etc. as well. So there's lots of different things all at the same time, which, in my experience is, it's pretty bad times. Okay, and so you got through the 25. How?
I'm just finishing the last 2.
Right. So
we got planning permission for an extra, right? So we've got planning permission for an extra. So now there's 2 to build. So yeah, just 2 more to finish.
And obviously during the first lockdown, I mean, I used to do some financial analysis for some investors that I work with, and Savills were, should we say, not being optimistic about pricing at that point in time. I remember they were talking about, if the market's going to go down by 10%, and you've got material costs increasing on the way through the development. So you must have been concerned about the exit.
I was, and actually took the decision to sell off plan.
Right.
A year ago, which was, in hindsight, a mistake. Right. Because now, of course, you've got people who secured houses at 2021 prices, and we're paying 2022 material costs to build those. So yeah, luckily, because things are the way that I keep things are pretty small, our overheads are really minimal. We use subcontractors. We haven't really got many employees, just myself and my mum that are actually on the books as employees, a lot of subcontractors. So we keep costs down that way. And I do a lot of things myself. I'm, negotiate contracts, looking for land, do the marketing, do every project management. I do a lot myself, so that keeps costs down. So I'm confident that we will make a profit, but I can't tell you how much, because the material costs go up every week.
Right.
And so it's a difficult one at the moment. I don't know we're currently negotiating on a new piece of land, and I honestly don't know how to estimate what the build costs are going to be, because today's estimate is not going to be the same in 6 months.
Yeah.
So it is more risky, I feel, than it's ever been.
Absolutely.
In terms of pricing projects.
Well, and particularly because we've had, obviously we've had a buoyant property market, right? So that obviously keeps things afloat. But yeah, if there was to be a reversal, and who knows, right? We never know when that may or may not happen. But yeah, you need to be obviously insulated from that, don't you? In the event that there is a, I don't think it'd be a huge correction, but a potential correction. So yes, keeping that margin in the deals is the most important thing, right? Buying well.
Yeah, and well, I've also, at the same time as kind of doing this development, what I did was, because I wanted to protect myself and have an additional income, I set up a buy-to-let portfolio. Okay. So I set myself the target of doing 10 houses in 10 months.
Right, wow.
BRRs, so buy, renovate, refinance, rent out. Yeah. And I achieved that within 10 months. So I've got those 10 properties. And so I've got that passive income coming in now. If anything happens, if there's a recession, if there's anything happens with the development where there's a gap between projects, there's no income, I feel safe and secure that I've got that buy-to-let portfolio that I can live off.
Okay, that's really interesting. So yeah, because I think quite often if you are to go into a decent sized project, then obviously the windfalls can be substantial. At the end of the project or on the way through when you get refinancing, etc. But obviously, yeah, that kind of recurring cash flow to keep the kind of walls for the door, if you like, for want of a better phrase, is kind of an important part of the process. So did you decide to do that straight away, or was that once you got your head around the construction process?
Well, I lived off a credit card for probably the first year, and I hated that feeling of like insecurity of not knowing. And because of COVID and everything, I was like, oh my God, are we going to sell these houses? Are we going to be able to, because before I pay myself, I've got to pay all the subcontractors, the bank, everybody else, like when you're the head of a business, that you're the last person to get paid.
Sure.
right? So I didn't get paid until 12 months into the project. And I hated that feeling. And I thought, you know, if I'm going to carry on being a developer, it's money in and money out all the time, asset rich, cash poor. So I just wanted to create a buffer for that and have something that was paying me every month, regardless of where I was in a development stage, that I knew that I'd be getting a monthly income.
Okay. And in terms of identifying that strategy, was that identified from the YouTubes and the other things, you know, the other media that you were consuming, or did you do a kind of formal training course on that? No,
definitely. So I never even considered having a buy-to-let portfolio. I was too busy like spending money on handbags and shoes and things. So I just thought, and then when I started to educate myself on how to build houses, I came across people with buy-to-let portfolios and all these different strategies and HMOs and serviced accommodation. And, you know, it opens your eyes to other options out there. And you think, well, hang on a minute, if I can build houses, which I never thought I'd be able to do, then I can easily build a buy-to-let portfolio. Like, how much harder can it be? So that's what I did. Yeah, so I'm in for a penny, in for a pound. I am, you know, if I'm going to do that, then I can easily do the other thing on the side.
Okay, and for somebody that's potentially considering dipping their toe into that world, you know, probably starting the other way around, because that's, you know, the more traditional way is do some buy-to-lets and kind of build up a portfolio of those and then do the developments afterwards. So you've kind of done that in reverse. What are the kind of takeaways of, you know, did you have I guess the question is, did you have a specific strategy that you were looking at in terms of the types of properties that you're buying, or was it, you know, is it purely based on yield or demand? What were the kind of drivers for the assets that you purchased on that side of things?
Price. I was looking for like maximum return. So I was looking, and you know, I don't know if it's the same in every area, but certainly in my area, you can pay 200 grand for a 2-bedroom house and it'll rent for 700 a month, or I can pay 85 grand for a 2-bedroom house that will also rent for 700 pound a month. So, right, you know, it's that's what I was going for. I was going for that low end, I think the cheapest place I bought was 60 grand for 1-bed apartment, and then I got a 3-bed house, 75 grand, 3-bed semi, 86 grand. Like, I was just going in, like, I'd got my Rightmove filters set to, you know, price low to high, and I was just going in at like the lowest point. And this was before the market went mad, actually. So this was start of 2020, when everyone was a bit not sure what was going to happen. So there was a lot of bargains to be had. Right now, the way that the market is, the same strategy just wouldn't work, because they just aren't. Those 85, 75 grand houses are now 125. So you just wouldn't get the same returns on them now.
And were you looking for, so it was a renovation play, so you're, you know, new carpets, new flooring, etc., new kitchens, bathrooms, all the rest of it?
Some of them didn't even need much done. Like the one I bought for 86 grand, like I just repainted it. That's all I did. Wow. And rented it out straight away. It was, you know, with hindsight, I should have bought twice as many houses as what I did, but you know, how was I to know the market was going to jump up like that? Sure, so sure. Yeah, it was a good time to get in, and you know, property's a cycle, right? So the cycle's going to come back round again. So yeah, but I do feel like my money's safer in property than what it is at the bank at the moment.
Yeah, 100%. Well, yeah, bricks and mortar, you know, the average, I think, is what doubles on price every certain period of time over the last 56 years.
Yeah, every 10 years doubles in price.
Yeah. So
I mean, you can get into crypto if you've got a head for heights and you like the risk, but I prefer property.
No, it's that's a whole different conversation and a potentially murky world. But yeah, there's certainly there's some good gains to be made in there, that's for sure. Okay, and in terms of that portfolio, then, did you buy it in your own name, or was it purchased in a limited company? How did you go about that?
I did it in a limited company because I knew, I think I worked out that was it over 5 or 6, then tax wise it was more efficient to do that through a limited company. I think
Sure.
the magic number was 5, so less than 5 didn't make much difference, but more than 5 definitely better in a limited company. So and that's what I did, and it's cleaner as well to keep it all within a different company name, and yeah, have that separate bank account and things. It's it just works out better. And also the limited liability in terms of like insurance and any future claims or anything like that, it's separate from me.
Sure. And in terms of that kind of buying process, so did you buy at auction, or was it all via agents and Rightmove?
Do you know, I've never bought from auction. So I was going on, I was just going on Rightmove. You know, I didn't really know what I was doing. So I was just going on Rightmove and like looking at these houses, and then I was going to view them, and I was just offering full asking price. I thought, yeah, that's cheap for a 3, because I knew how much houses cost to build at this point, and I'm thinking, well, I can't build that house for 75 grand. I can't build that house for 80 grand. So it's definitely worth what they're asking for it. I paid it, and luckily it all worked out, because by the time the sale had actually completed, the house had gone up in value anyway. So I was still, although I'd offered full asking price for it, was still quids in by the time the sale had completed.
Sure. And then
those.
Yeah, and then you obviously go through a renovation process, and obviously then get a refinance on those. Mm-hmm. Were you able to get your cash out, or not quite on the refinance?
I did a couple of new build to rent.
Right.
So I bought the land, I built the house, I refinanced, and they're definitely all money out plus profit deals.
Right.
But the straightforward BRRs, no. Although I'm actually getting a couple refinanced at the moment, so maybe, but I can't see that there'd be any all money out deals.
Sure.
No, I just don't think they exist at the moment, unless you're very, very lucky.
Yeah, I think that there's potential opportunities if it's a distressed sale or something like that. But yeah, it's more difficult to. And the reality is, you know, the kind of evictions and all that stuff hasn't really happened. So, and I think, you know, that will obviously come at some point for those that are, you know, haven't been paying their mortgages during COVID. Okay. And in terms of your kind of outlook on things now, you've obviously mentioned that you're buying additional plots. What's the game plan in terms of new sites that you're acquiring and going forwards? What's the agenda?
So I just wanted to sort of keep my hand in a few different pies really within property. So I've got buy-to-let portfolio, which I've now got kind of a full-time guy working for me. That's just, I put in, you know, I buy a distressed house, I put him in it. He is a multi-skill builder that can do the whole thing. Right. So that'll carry on building my buy-to-let portfolio. And then on the development side, I work with my mum, so she does all the back office admin and things for me, all the customer facing stuff. And I find the land and I project manage the development. So we've got a couple of barns that we're negotiating on at the moment, and then a farmyard site with 3 large detached houses on it and potential for 4 more at the back that we're going to go for planning for. So smaller than the 25 house project, but again, it's slim pickings on the market at the moment, and you've got to take what you can get.
Sure. And for somebody that was considering moving into that kind of world, what would be the kind of one key piece of advice that you would give them if they were looking at their first development plot, you know, with or without planning? What would your kind of piece of advice, the takeaway for them?
Oh, just one piece of advice.
If there's more than one, please continue.
Okay, I got 3.
Okay.
1, get the knowledge, the experience, just do your homework. Follow somebody that's doing what you want to do, speak to them, learn from them, follow them around for a day, whatever. 2, be prepared to make sacrifices. I drove around in a Peugeot Bipper van for 12 months with like both of my kids strapped into a single seat on the front doing the school drops and everything because I couldn't afford to put petrol in my car. So be prepared to make sacrifices to make money in the long run. Like, you've got to be prepared to go without. And then 3, mindset. if you don't believe that you can do it, then you won't do it. Like, you've got to get up every day and believe that actually I'm doing a good job, I can do this. And it was, for me, it was that mindset changing that turned everything around for me. I went from thinking this is overwhelming, I'm not going to be able to do this, to knowing that I could do it. So yeah, they're my three.
And how did you make that mindset shift then? Because that's, you know, it's a big thing. They're complicated projects. There's lots of moving parts. You've got, you know, money that's owed. You've got to control, you know, sometimes difficult builders. You know, there's a huge amount of moving parts. So how do you get yourself, you know, from your perspective, what did you do to kind of create that resilience and determination?
Couple of different things, really. I actually had a weekly therapy session,
okay,
which was great for like getting unpicking any kind of past traumas that might be like inhibiting my future success. So that was really, that contributed a lot. And then just, I guess, connecting with other people who were doing the same thing as me, so I could see that it could be done because they were doing it. And then reading as well, like reading about other people, like, you know, inspirational books, inspirational stories of people that have achieved great things. And yeah, I guess it was those three things really that slowly built up together to change that mindset and achieve.
Yeah, well, it's certainly a huge success, particularly given the the kind of unfortunate circumstances that led to it starting. And in terms of those books, is there any takeaways there? Any particular favourites that you would be recommending to our listeners and viewers?
You've got Rich Dad Poor Dad, but it's a bit of a cliche that, but everybody suggests that book. But that's one I started with, Robert Kiyosaki. I'm reading one by David Goggins at the moment, Can't Hurt Me.
Oh yeah, it's really good.
Like, that is really good. I wish I'd have read that like 12 months ago, but yeah, that's a really good one that I'm reading at the moment. On Stephen Bartlett, Happy Sexy Millionaire.
Okay, I haven't read that. I will check that out.
He's got a fantastic story. So yeah, few to recommend there.
Okay, and in terms of kind of from a health perspective, obviously going through COVID and so on and so forth, do you work out? How do you keep yourself kind of, you know, fit and focused? Because yeah, from a personal perspective, I find that if I'm, you know, not having my kind of morning workout, I'm not as productive and, you know, as motivated. Is that the same for yourself? And yeah, what do you do to kind of enable that side of things?
Well, I've been a bit bad lately, actually, because I used to. So I was all last year, I was getting up 7 o'clock in the morning. I'd do a 5K run, I'd come back, get ready for work, like I'd be in the zone, be in a great mindset. And since Christmas, I've just been a bit lazy and I haven't really been doing it. It's been a bit cold, so I haven't been doing it, but I do need to. This is why I'm reading David Goggins' book now, Can't Hurt Me, because I'm thinking this is going to get me in the mindset of like, he's doing these, you know, 100-mile ultra marathons. All I need to do is 5K, like just trying to get myself in the zone.
Absolutely, yeah. No, yeah. When it's cold and rainy outside, it's less appealing than middle of the summer for sure.
I'm a fair weather runner, so I actually hate running, but I love the feeling afterwards. I actually hate it when I'm doing it, and like I just. Oh no, I'm not like a natural runner at all, but I love the lift that it gives me afterwards.
Absolutely, yeah. No, it's the reward can be good. And in terms of the some of the mistakes that you made, because obviously doing these things for the first time, what do you think the biggest mistake was during that, you know, particularly that large development?
Probably trying to do everything myself.
Right.
So, you know, I'd turn up in my rubber gloves ready to clean, or I'd be unloading lorries. I'd be, you know, I was trying to do everything on the site. And now I've been able to put people in place, because when I used to see my dad, like it seemed like my dad was doing all these things himself, you know, it seemed like that's what he was doing. Like he was just here, there, everywhere, like doing everything. so I tried to kind of replicate that, but you know what, like I don't have that physical strength to do the physical work. I don't have the technical knowledge to, you know, he'd just like, oh, that needs siliconing, I'll run a bead of silicone. Like I can't do that, I don't have the skills. So it's been, yeah, trying to do everything myself, but now leveraging other people's time and expertise really to which frees me up to kind of take more of an overview and look at and be a director or a CEO rather than, you know, the cleaner, the caretaker, the delivery person. Yeah, so just trying to stop doing everything and stop being such a control freak.
Sure. Okay. And in terms of the biggest success from your side, what was that, the completion or almost completion of that scheme? Is that what you feel? Or
I feel like it was paying back that loan, getting into profit, getting the next deal, which is almost over the line, and just having credibility as well in the industry, because as a woman in a male dominated environment, it was, and because I had no experience, it was difficult to be taken seriously and to be credible. So that's a big win for me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, yeah, what you've done is kind of testament to your resilience, as I said earlier. Okay, so in terms of the projects now, so you've got the barns, you've got. So how many at any one time are you looking at? Lots of things, or what's that kind of process for new projects when you're evaluating them? How do you go through that process?
I look at it geographically first of all, so I only look for things within kind of a half-hour commute, because like quality of life is important to me, so I don't want to be driving for an hour. And also I've got a team in this area, so I don't, you know, and I don't want to lose that team, and I know that they probably aren't going to want to, they don't need to travel, right? Because skills are in demand, they can get a job like up the road. So to keep that team, I try and keep the new projects local.
Sure.
So that's the first thing, and then I'm looking at is this a project that I can get excited about? Is it something I'm going to enjoy doing? So for example, I'm looking at some listed barns. Well, like listed, a lot of people wouldn't want to touch, but I didn't think I could build 25, 26 houses before 2 years ago. So I'll happily take on listed barns. What's, you know, I feel like I could take on anything now. So yeah, and they're just up the road. So that's a nice, easy project. I've got the team in place already, so that's great. So yeah, it's not necessarily what I can make the most money on, because I could make more money if I went further afield, right? If I went an hour away, 2 hours away, I'm sure I could find better deals. But it's about lifestyle as well, and it's about not having long commutes and keeping the same team together.
Absolutely, and you've mentioned that a couple of times. I think, yeah, that kind of building that team of good quality trades who you can trust is, yeah, that's a key part of this process, isn't it?
Definitely.
And what advice would you be? What kind of characteristics do you look out for in that team? Is there anything particularly that you look for if you're, you know, looking for a new whatever trade it might be?
Just people who are dead keen to learn, like people like myself who are like looking to progress, and people who I think could take over and be like a site manager, or you know, people who take real pride in what they do. There's some people who just do what they do because it's, you know, they just earn money and that's what they're just there to get paid. And there's some people who love what they do and they're really passionate about what they do, and they bring an atmosphere to a site that lifts everybody else up, and they're the kind of people that it's always good to have. You're not going to get everybody that kind of person, but if you can get a few, it really has an impact on the rest.
Absolutely, yeah. It kind of creates a good working environment and get a bit more productivity out of the guys, and they don't mind going that kind of extra step when something does go wrong, which it inevitably does on that process, right?
Yeah, sure. It's just having a good atmosphere, and if you've got a good atmosphere, people want to come to work and they want to stay there and they want to do well.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess I would imagine you're probably getting referrals from the existing guys. You know, paying people on time as well as always, as we both know, is really important to keep that motivation.
Yeah, that's just the bare minimum, is just, you know, pay them every week on time. Yeah, and same with suppliers. Same with suppliers. You know, during COVID, during like the materials shortages, we didn't have a problem getting materials because we always paid on time. So whenever a shipment of cement came in, they'd be on the phone to us first because they knew we'd be paying for it that week. So, you know, stuff like that does really help.
And in terms of how you are forecasting, because you touched on this earlier, so materials costs are, you know, nobody knows where they're going to end up, right? So how do you forecast for that on, you know, new projects that you're looking to take on? Because obviously, yeah, is there an upper limit that you would put in there? And obviously that then impacts the profitability of the scheme if you go too high, and it potentially makes it unviable. So how do you work out those forecasts?
Well, for example, the site that I'm taking on, that I'm hoping to get over the line, we're having to just be a bit more creative about how we are adding money onto the profit, basically. So rather than selling off plan for discounts, which traditionally with my dad's business, it's what he's always done, he's sold off plan, you get the house cheaper, blah. We're actually going the opposite. We're finishing the house completely, speccing it out really high, and then being able to charge more for that property.
Right.
So that counteracts a little bit any increase in materials costs, because whatever those materials are costing, I'm adding it on at the end. Okay. The problem, I costed this project out 6 months ago. Well, I know that those costings aren't even valid anymore, because every week, every fortnight, I'm getting emails about price increases, and I don't think they'll ever come down. Once they've reached a certain level, I can't see anybody ever dropping their prices. So yeah, I keep good relationships with suppliers. Got one supplier that I have a really good relationship with. Yeah, and that's it really. And yeah, so good relationship with suppliers, and adding more money on at the end of the project in terms of the finish, making it much higher spec. So, you know, as well, things like, instead of, one thing my dad always did, it was white PVC windows and doors, you know, that kind of thing. It was the typical new build estate type house. I'm just looking at lifting it. So, you know, having the nice windows, the nice doors, the nice finishes, and then being able to charge for that. So something more bespoke, I think, rather than trying to beat the market, just offer something better than the general market.
Okay, and obviously that then commands a premium, but you're not necessarily having to pay the same premium for the materials as you're receiving for the finished product. So you're kind of creating a bit of an arbitrage on that.
Absolutely, and attracting a slightly different market as well. So rather than sort of attracting sort of your bargain hunters who are looking for an off-plan house and they're not having any extras on it because they're already at the top of their budget, you're now attracting a market that don't mind paying for the granite. They're going to pay for the granite worktops, and they're going to pay for the double ovens and the built-in microwaves and the built-in coffee machines. And you're attracting a market who's got the money to pay for those extras that you're not able to put in on a bog standard new build off plan.
Yeah, sure.
So it's just about, you know, the same house, you can create more value out of it. Yeah,
no, absolutely. And I guess the key part is as ever is buying well. So yeah, what kind of margins do you look for? If it's, are you looking at land without planning, or is it always?
No,
consent?
always with consent. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't like the risk of buying without planning, and I have no faith in our planning system. So it's safer all around. I'd rather take a smaller profit and not have the hassle of trying to get something through planning. Sure.
Yeah. No. I mean, I've got some experience of taking things through planning, and I don't really like the construction side of things, so I'm kind of the opposite way around. But yeah, it's understanding the risks of the process that you're involved in. And yeah, as you say, the planning system certainly has its flaws. So yeah, there can be challenges with, and particularly if you've got a deadline for something, it makes it very difficult. If you've only got a certain period of time to achieve planning in or whatever, it can be tricky. But yeah, you can end up stuck in a bit of a difficult situation. So interesting. And in terms of,
just to get that extra plot, to get the 26th plot, it took 10 months in planning. Just no objections, just one additional plot. There was no issues with it. And 10 months. So if I was relying on that as a strategy to keep the business going in terms of like applying for planning on land, I just think I'd give up. So I just don't think I'd have no trades left, because you'd be constantly waiting for planning permission and keeping that pipeline going. It's not worth it to me. I'd rather pay more for something with planning.
Sure. And
keep going and not have the hassle of dealing with the planning people.
Okay. And in terms of the kind of margins that you look for on a site, is it, obviously banks are looking for kind of 20-25% margin on cost. Is that the kind of ballpark? Yeah. No,
that's right. Yeah. I wouldn't do it for any less than that. That's exactly what I look for, 20-25%.
Okay. And then obviously you try and achieve a premium on the exit with the kind of good, better quality materials and nicer bespoke finish.
That's something new that we're going to try with this next project, but it's not something that we've had to do before. But with the cost of materials going up, it's just something that will counteract that slightly.
Yeah. Okay. No, well, look, it's been really interesting learning about some of your journey. And so what do you think the future holds? Where will we see your name up in lights in the future? You've been on the front of magazines so far. Are you going to be at the National Property Awards, or where do you see it going?
I don't know, really. I just keep getting asked to do these things, and I keep saying yes. I suppose I don't know where it's going to go, really. I mean, I never thought I'd be on a podcast talking about property. In fact, I used to be the person who set this up for other people. I used to do PR and marketing for other people. So the roles have reversed. I want to keep doing property. I enjoy it. I like it. And just see where it goes, really. It's whatever opportunities come my way, I'll grab with both hands and embrace it and see where it takes me.
Awesome. And in terms of where we can find you, do you want to drop websites and handles for Instagram and Twitter, etc.?
Listen, I'm so busy. I only have time to do one thing, and that's Instagram. So I'm at Accidental Female Developer on Instagram. So yeah, follow me there and send me a message.
Okay, that's perfect. And no doubt, as this progresses, you'll become like the Gary V of developments and have your squad following you around, recording your every move.
I don't know about
that. We will see. But no, Charlotte, I really appreciate your time. It's very interesting to learn about your journey. Hopefully this was worthwhile for you and for our listeners as well. But
no, I really enjoyed it. Thank you. Thanks for letting me talk about it.
Cool. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to The Growth Show with Matt Lindsay. Please like our podcast and subscribe today.